The most damaging thing Sam's Club destroyed in 2018 wasn't jobs, stores, or even member savings at the pump. It was something far more valuable, and once you see it, the whole fiasco looks different. This wasn't a closure problem, it was a trust problem. Most people remember this story as a retail downsizing move. A chain trims weak locations, Wall Street shrugs, life goes on. But that's not what customers experienced. On January 11, 2018, Sam's Club began abruptly closing stores across the United States. By the end of the month, 63 locations from Alaska to Puerto Rico were gone, affecting about 9,400 employees. That sounds like a corporate portfolio decision. But in real life, it felt like this. You drive to your usual Sam's Club to grab groceries, maybe paper towels, maybe chicken, maybe a cheap fill-up before heading home. And the whole place is just gone. Not the gas station closed, not the pharmacy reduced hours. Gone. That distinction matters, because the gas story only hit so hard because it was attached to a much bigger shock. Members didn't wake up angry about fuel strategy. They woke up to discover that a place woven into their weekly route had vanished overnight. And then Sam's Club made it worse. The brand crisis wasn't just the decision, it was the way the decision arrived, suddenly, unevenly, and too late. In multiple cases, employees reportedly showed up in uniform and found doors locked, with signs saying the store was closing effective immediately. CNN called the handling a PR mess. Reports described news and rumors spreading in the morning, while Sam's Club didn't fully clarify what was happening until later in the day, after social media pressure started boiling over. That creates the worst possible discovery sequence. Workers learn from a locked door. Members learn from local rumors. The company becomes the last one speaking. That is poison for trust, because when a company speaks last in its own crisis, people don't just assume it's disorganized. They assume it knew, hid, and hoped to outrun the reaction. Here's where the gas angle becomes powerful. Cheap gas was never just a perk, it was a ritual. At the time, warehouse clubs like Costco, BJ's, and Sam's Club competed aggressively on member-only gas prices, and in early 2018, the national average price for regular gasoline was hovering around the mid-$2 range. That made the discount feel concrete, immediate, visible on a giant roadside sign. Bulk shopping is occasional, gas is frequent. A family might buy toilet paper and cereal every few weeks, but they buy gas every week, sometimes twice. So if you suddenly remove a Sam's Club location, you're not just taking away a low-margin benefit. You're deleting the most repeated proof that the membership is worth paying for. That's the flip most people miss. The moat wasn't cheap gas itself. Anybody can cut a few cents off a gallon. The moat was the habit around it. Pull in, swipe the membership, save a little, feel smart, then maybe stock up inside. Repeat next week. Routine is what turns a discount into loyalty. Break the routine and the discount stops feeling like value. It starts feeling like a promise that was revoked. And just when this story could have stayed a retail execution blunder, it picked up a second layer: betrayal by contrast. At the same time these closures were unfolding, Walmart was also publicly highlighting wage increases, bonuses, and expanded benefits tied in part to the new U.S. tax law. On paper, those are positive announcements, but in context, they created brutal optics. Communications experts quoted in coverage said it looked like executives were hoping good news would bury bad news. So, the public saw two Americas at once. The corporate headline said generosity. The parking lot said padlocks. That split is deadly because brands don't break only when they do something unpopular. They break when what they say and what people see stop matching. Now add the strategic logic. By late January 2018, reporting indicated these closures were part of a strategy focused on underperforming stores, with some locations converted into e-commerce fulfillment centers. Again, on paper, that's just repositioning. Plenty of companies do it, but brand damage happens in the translation. To an executive, it's a portfolio shift. To a small restaurant owner who relied on that club for supplies and gas, or a budget-focused household that paid for practical savings, it lands differently. I paid for utility, and you erased it without warning. That emotional translation is everything, because customers do not evaluate a membership the way a strategy deck does. They don't think in market segmentation. They think in lived reliability. Can I count on this place next Tuesday? Will the pump work? Will the store be there? Will the thing I already paid for still function the way it did last week? That's the real product, not gasoline, not rotisserie chickens, not 40 packs of water. Reliability. Here's the quotable lesson. Convenience brands don't sell savings first. They sell certainty. And once certainty cracks, every other benefit gets repriced in the customer's mind. That's why the backlash felt bigger than the immediate financial loss. Yes, members lost access to cheap fuel. Yes, employees lost jobs. Yes, entire communities lost a store. But the long-tail damage came from something less visible. Sam's Club had trained people into a routine that felt automatic, almost invisible, because it worked. Then it interrupted that routine in the harshest way possible, with silence first and explanation later. Now, the open loop. Why wasn't the worst part the layoffs, or the locked doors, or the lost gas savings? Because all three were specific losses. Painful, but specific. The deeper damage was broader. Sam's Club taught members that a paid convenience habit they depended on could disappear overnight, without warning, and the company might not tell them first. That changes how every remaining member interprets the brand. Not just at the closed stores, everywhere. The most damaging part wasn't the gasoline or even the closures themselves. It was the broken expectation of reliability. Sam's Club sold members a routine. Pull in, save a little, stock up, move on. In 2018, the company proved that when a convenience brand interrupts that ritual without warning, cheap gas stops being a moat and becomes evidence that the brand was leaning on trust all along. If your local Sam's Club had disappeared overnight, would losing the gas savings or losing the routine have bothered you more? And why? Subscribe, and you'll get sharper case studies like this that help you see what brands are really selling beneath the surface.